Okay, so I want to make it absolutely clear that when I do these sort of tracking worksheets, I don't mean any disrespect or insult to most of the people. I mean, I'm certainly not flattering to them, but I tend not to be rude unless, of course, I come across somebody who pretends to be the greatest player the world has ever seen on a blackjack table, and it's patently, absolutely obvious that he's nothing of the kind. That I find very difficult to deal with. But DD here, Degen Dalt, seems like a super guy. I mean, he's just turned 25. He's jumping into a rather murky pool in that he's losing a ton of money betting badly at these table games. He's doing all of the things that the casinos need these professional losers to do on their various different channels on YouTube. He basically losses at the table games are an overhead, and he gets his money back through Google. And to me, that whole situation is dishonest, because it's not made clear to all the people who subscribe to these guys that they're not really in any kind of jeopardy. They're not getting hurt by their stupid betting, and they are basically setting a very, very bad example to people dumb enough to try to imitate them. Clearly, what the casinos want is for people to imitate what these guys are doing. And when you hear somebody like Vegas Matt saying that he doesn't believe that he's promoting gambling or leading lambs to slaughter or whatever, it is such disingenuous crap that it's infuriating. It's quite obvious that the casinos would not go along with what he's saying, because if they believed that Degen Dalt or anybody else in this group, this growing group of so-called content creators on YouTube, if they really believed that anybody was discouraging gambling, teaching people to think twice before going to a casino, taking part in any of the wonderful attractions of casinos, and the casinos would not allow the filming and all the rest of it. What the casinos know for sure is that these guys are essentially shills. They are barkers, they are frontmen, they are touts, and their job is to sell gambling to people who, if they take the bait, will be harmed by what's on offer. So, that's where I'm at with all of this stuff, and I'm not altruistic. I'm not sort of like looking down on these people, except as someone who spent years in Nevada and knows the damage that's done to all kinds of people by gambling, by easy access to gambling. I've seen it. I did not experience it. I want to stress that. I did not experience it. I did not lose a fortune at gambling because I had pattern betting, which was not as good then as it is now, but I had pattern betting behind me. And there are any number of dealers and pit bosses and others that I left behind in Nevada way back in 2013. April of 2013 was the last time I was in northern Nevada, where I lived for almost 30 years, up near Carson City and State Line, Lake Tahoe. Any number of people will say, no, he wasn't a loser. He wasn't a big winner, but he wasn't a loser. And also what I did was I mixed table games with sports betting, and I had exactly the same kind of progressive strategy working for me at sports betting, to the point where the guys who took the bets in the sports section of all the casinos were scratching their heads and sort of saying, well, how come this bet is $100 and this one, which has got a much better chance of winning, is only 20 or whatever? And of course, they didn't understand that it was all about timing and sort of like betting progressively to reach a winning target. Once you reach the winning target, you pull back to the minimum bet and you start over. And that's exactly what I'm suggesting everybody needs to do, including Degen Dalt. Play to win. Play to win more when you win than you lose when you lose. But these guys don't take advice from people like me, because if they started winning regularly and teaching their viewers, their subscribers, their followers, their fans, their acolytes, or whatever, how to win on a regular basis, then the casinos would pull the plug on them. And that's just how it is. So anyway, that's that. And next up is the Excel analysis of Didi's miserable 20-minute losing session. Anyway, thanks for hanging in, and I'll see you next time. Okay, then. So I've been tracking Degen Dalt and the self-coronated king, greatest blackjack player of all time, the GOAT, the whatever, the highly delusional John Sirasani. I've been tracking them sort of like almost side by side just lately. And I'm going to give up on Mr. Sirasani, because he is driving me quietly, no, not quietly, noisily potty. Because just like me, he talks all the time. But unlike me, he doesn't talk and play at the same time. He has to sort of rabbit, 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 and then a hand is played, and then rabbit, 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 and another hand is played. And it takes him about 3 times as long to, get through half as many hands as anybody else who's playing amongst the crew of professional losers on YouTube. So I'm going to stick with Degen Dalt from now on, because he's not as annoying as some of the really bad betters. And of course, bettors, I suppose, is the correct way to pronounce it. But it's always frustrating with these guys, because it doesn't matter who I try to track. What I see is an ongoing player edge. And I have to say, suspicious of that, because I think it's very odd that when I add to my own record of games that I've played or sessions that I've played against the Wizard of Oz sim, I'm seeing a constant downward turn from left to right in the red chart, the AV flat chart there, whereas these guys miraculously somehow managed to see sessions that are collectively in their favour. DD's currently at plus 3.3%. I don't know. I enjoy watching him, and I especially like tracking him, because he has his buddy Kyle is doing a super job with edits, and it is very easy to track his bets and not make any mistakes, and to see exactly what is going on. I don't always precisely agree with the sums, but I think what often happens is that he counts in dealer bets, which I don't bother with, because they're tips and they have nothing whatever to do with the actual game itself. The one thing that I have to try to remember is that I should stop using the verb play for blackjack and baccarat, because basically how you respond to different cards in blackjack is laid down by the basic strategy, and it's the common sense to stick with that. And in baccarat, of course, there is no player choice involved in, sort of when there's a hit and when there's a stand and all that kind of stuff. So the key verb is betting. And the problem that all of these professional losers on YouTube have is that they play the way the casinos would like you and me to play, which is kind of erratically, self-destructively, irresponsibly, dangerously, maybe thrillingly, maybe emotionally, maybe all of those things. But None of those things work if you want to beat negative expectation. And let's face it, that is our aim. What we're after is to make money from sessions even when we lose more bets than we win. This time with Degen Dalt, if he had stuck, as I always do, with just left hand or first base bets, then he would have seen a slight player edge, +3 overall, which is 4.4%, +4.4%. He had his usual silly bets, his splitting out to two hands. Terrible idea. The only time it makes sense mathematically, logically, sensibly to do that is if you really hate what the shoe is producing at a given time. You can't move to another table for whatever reason. And so what you do is, if you want to spread out, bet small on multiple hands, whatever the casino will let you get away with. I mean, if you're at a $25 minimum table, then usually it's like 50, the minimum is 50 for 2 bets and 75 for 3. That's the way it used to be anyway. I mean, I haven't played in Nevada since the end of 2013. And I make no apology for that. I mean, I put in years of hard work, hard learning into my time in Nevada. I spent a lot of time in casinos. I did not get murdered because I've always been great at money management. I learned those lessons very early on in Las Vegas, starting from around 76 or 77. I'm sorry, I don't remember precisely which. I landed in Los Angeles early in 76, so I suspect that I would have been in Las Vegas pretty soon after that, but maybe not. Maybe it was 77 before I got there. I just don't clearly remember, and I have no records. But it doesn't matter, does it? I mean, we are talking damn near 50 years. So, when I put these things up on my Practice Makes Profit channel, I know what I'm talking about. I am not some neophyte idiot. I'm not an idiot like John Sirasani, who actually has the gall to claim that he's the greatest blackjack player who ever played. And he is definitely the worst of all the people that I've spent any time tracking. I stopped tracking Brandon O'Brien, Mr. Handpay, Bobby Rivas, Vegas Matt, several others, simply because I just couldn't stand the fact that it was quite obvious that they were cherry picking. They were just showing us the sessions that they wanted us to see. I think Vegas Matt may be less guilty of that than anybody else, but he was still showing, when I last added to his worksheet, the worksheet that's set up in his name, he was still running a plus. Overall, the AV. The AV is the actual value, and all that means is that you take the number of wins overall and the number of losses overall. You take one from the other, obviously losses from wins. If you end up with a plus value, then obviously it's a player edge over the data set, however big it might be. And if it's, as it usually is, negative, then it's a negative. And there are all these sort of like 2-letter expressions that fly around. NE for negative expectation, EV for expected value. AV for me is the most important thing of all, actual value. Take away from the number of wins the number of losses, you will usually end up with a negative number, as I always do with, when I collate my sessions with the Wizard of Oz sim. And, I know there are people out there who say, well, sims are not the same as the real thing. And I've got to tell you, people, they really are. And you need to grow up and try them yourselves. And you will see very quickly that if you bet against the Wizard of Oz blackjack sim the same way that you bet when you go to the casino or when you go online to play bet blackjack, you'll find you're getting your ass kicked. I'm not. And also, I don't cherry pick. I put the stuff up. I put date and time on them. I try to run one session into the next if I'm going to spend, more than an hour or two playing blackjack. So I have the timestamp on there, and then I freeze the game, and then roll over into the next session. I try to do that when I can. From one day to the next, it's a bit more complicated, but the aim all the time is to be as transparent as I possibly can, to be as accurate as I possibly can, and to give you information which is helpful to you if you are able to bet these games with what's needed, which is, first of all, a shitload of money. Secondly, I hate that American thing where they say second of all. It makes no sense. Secondly, you need a betting strategy that works, that's proven. And then, of course, you need confidence, sobriety, alertness, all of those things. Never, ever sit down at one of these games unless you are at top form. If you're tired, don't do it. If you're fed up, don't do it. If you're hungry, whatever. Just make sure that you take these games seriously and you treat betting against them. See, I managed to say it that time, betting, not playing, because playing is the wrong word, the wrong verb. Just make sure that you are at your best, because this is serious business. This is not fun and games. It's not excitement. It's not relaxation. It's not anything other than a business proposition for you and for me in exactly the same way as it is for the casino. They're not there to have fun. They're there to get your money out of your pocket, out of your wallet, into the dealer's tray. And they know that their biggest helper is you, right? And then, like if you watch the latest session from Degen Dalt, who's becoming more and more my favorite bettor, simply because he has a kind of an engaging personality and he's not a total idiot. Bobby Rivas also has charisma and engaging personality, but he plays like a total prat. He has all of the instincts of a seriously degenerate, compulsive gambler. No restraint whatsoever. But the problem that I have with all of these guys is they're not at risk at all. There's no jeopardy for them. They can play as stupidly as they want to, or as stupidly as the casinos tell them to, because I'm sure that there's some kind of an arrangement with the casinos where the casinos are saying, well, yeah, you can film, you can do whatever you like, you can win from time to time when you get lucky, but do not use any kind of strategy which helps the people who are watching your videos to learn how to beat us, because we don't want that. So, that's how it is. Anyway, here we are, +3 here, down here, 4.4% overall. We turned that into, or the algorithm turned that into +38.3%. Action for the algorithm was 24,000. Go down to dear old DD, and what you see here is a very different story. He lost only 500 on his left-hand bets, 1.1%. But he lost somewhere between 4 and 4,000. I've counted it here as 4,000 with his silly extra bets. I don't know why anybody would do that, but he does it, and it's his money, and he can do what the hell he wants. But I just don't get why he would do this. It was just a mass of losses here. The irony with DD is that overall he's still ahead on extra bets, but that's only because, and let's go up to the top here. That is only because, he had a run at Caesars, which was ridiculous. He just made a shitload of money on spread out, multi bets and so on, and that put him in credit. But over time, 33 sessions, he saw money, a little bit extra money brought in by multi bets. And 48 sessions, he lost out because of multi-bet. So it's his money. He can do what the hell he wants. All I'm trying to say, I'm trying to use his sessions to help people understand that if they bet the way these professional losers do, which is the way the casinos want you to bet, then you are going to lose the same way they do. The difference being that you don't have a check come in from Google at the end of the day, at the end of the week, the end of the month, or whenever the hell it is that they pick up their dosh from Moogle. So you don't enjoy the same advantages that they do. Look at his total action, 57,000. Pattern bettings was 24,000, so less than half. He lost somewhere around 5,000. I've got him at minus 4,500, but it's entirely possible that that I made a misstep somewhere in spite of Kyle's excellent editing, excellent explanations, and so on. But the trick is don't bet the way these guys do. You'll get hurt. His average win 848. His average loss 820. This number here 103.4%. That's crap. He's got to be winning more when he wins than he loses when he loses, to the tune of at least a 25% extra advantage, 125% one over the other, to make any money. You can't actually fix that. There's nothing you can do to make that happen. But if you bet right, it happens on its own. It's a consequence of following pattern betting and progressive betting generally. Every so often you will see people like Bobby Rivas and Vegas Matt and Bretsky and Mr. What's his name? Brandon O'Brien. You'll see them doing sort of silly mockery things of progressive betting, and that's because that's what the casinos want them to do. That's what the casinos tell them to do. Mock progressive betting and make sure that everybody knows that it's suicidal and stupid, and that when you get lucky and you win, you only win one unit. Well, let's go back up here again. Does this look like one unit to you? I mean, yeah, we went in the hole a bit, but and we had some bets that were a little bit on the high side, but you basically you basically just have to follow a fixed, sensible, smart betting strategy, and you can make good money. This one here, this 4,800 here, I find that a little bit questionable. But what I said a long time ago was I'm not going to mess with the algorithm now it's in place, because sort of like 99.9% of the time it does exactly what I would want it to do. But once in a blue moon, it looks a little iffy. But I don't want to change it, not because of specific wins like this one. There've just been so many. You go to the top of this thing here, and just look at this. The light green here is DD, who's not doing very well, and this dark green here is the pattern betting algorithm. Make of it what you will. You can write me off as a lunatic. You can believe it or not believe it. What can I do? But what I'm concerned about is, after all of my years in Nevada, I started getting towards the end, and especially the last sort of 5 years or so, I became more engaged in sort of like talking to people and sort of saying, you know what, if you were to just bet a little bit differently, you could actually, you could do a lot better at this game. And many times I had people sort of saying to me, well, thanks, if you could just give me some tips. And I did, and I didn't force it on them. And sometimes I would say things like, you really need to double down on that, if you don't mind me saying so. Oh, I don't know. So I would say, like, okay, here's what I'll do. Split it or double down on it. I will back you on that. And if you lose, I'll cover it, and I was happy to do that, because it's simply that, when you see people betting self-destructively, stupidly, illogically, innumerately, just stupidly, basically is the word that's best fitted, I think, to what happens with these folks. I think you have a kind of a responsibility in a way to step in. And I saw so much agony, so much misery, so much real sadness caused. And a lot of it, you could tell it was because people were losing money that didn't belong to them, or at least if it partially belonged to them, that's fine. But then there were sort of wives and children and dependents of other kinds or whatever, who were obviously, they had money on the table as well, but they didn't know it, and this is the kind of thing that you get all the time in Nevada. I mean, I only know about Nevada because I lived in Nevada for damn near 30 years, and I played in Nevada for damn near 40 years, starting. I mean, I left the USA just in time, pre-Trump, in 2014, January of 2014. So I've been back in this country for 11 years now, back in the dear old UK. But let's go back to this down here, and you're seeing DD losing around 5,000, around 6.7% of his, negative 6.7% of his total action, and getting an average win of versus an average loss of 103.4%. Go back up here, and this is pattern betting's average win 567, average loss 180. So that's an average win over average loss of 315%. It's been distorted somewhat by this, I think, perhaps a little bit over large bet there. But I can't keep monkeying with the, with the algorithm, because that's self-defeating, isn't it? So anyway, thanks for hanging in with me. I'm seeing a few more hits now, a few more views, a few more likes, a few more comments, and a few more emails, so I'm glad of that. And I'm not doing this for personal profit. I'm doing it because it makes me feel good, and I'm doing it in the hope that there are enough people out there who are interested enough in these games to want to learn how to tackle them more effectively and more profitably. But I have to say to everybody, if you don't have a shitload of money behind you, forget it. Just remember how much money is in the dealer's tray, anywhere between 100,000 and $500,000, depending on what kind of, rent district you're in. High roller, low roller, shit roller, whatever, you're looking at a lot of money, and that's what you're up against. It's them having more money than you, and also they're not emotionally involved. They're not drinking all the time. They're not having dirty martinis and negritos, negrinos, or negrunkies, or whatever the hell they are, and all those other stupid drinks that people go in for while they're playing. Never touch alcohol while you're playing unless you want to lose. Never, ever play the way that these guys on YouTube do unless you want to lose. That's it for now, at least. But like I always say, take it or leave it, believe it or not. And thanks for being out there.